अस्सलाम वालेकुम बच्चों, क्या हाल है प्यारे प्यारे बच्चे, young fellows and young ladies, how are you doing? Good to see you. So good morning, Sunday morning. Let's begin our day with fun traveling through stories and learning, isn't it? चलिए जी, सबसे पहले हमारे स्केड्यूल के मुताबिक हम आज पढ़ेंगे उर्दू की स्टोरी और उसके बाद एक इंग्लिश की स्टोरी। तो अपने कजन्स को, अपने फ्रेंड्स को, नेबर्स को इकट्ठा कर लें, बहन भाइयों को भी, सिबलिंग्स को भी जी। तो इस कहानी का नाम है 3 सवाल। ठीक है बेटे, ये है, आप देख सकते हैं। चलो, इसको लिखा है खुर्शीद रिजवी ने और इसकी तस्वीर बनाई है आमना महमूद ने जी। अब पुराने जमाने का जिक्र है, एक मुल्क में जाबिर बादशाह हुकूमत करता था, यानी कि वो बड़ा सख्त किस्म का बादशाह था। लोग इसकी हैबत से कांपते थे, उसके डर से। जरा सी बात पर गुस्से में आकर गर्दन उड़ा देना इसका मामूल था। बहुत जालिम बादशाह था ये। एक रोज किसी मुखबर यानी के जो खबर देता है, उससे खबर दी कि इसकी सल्तनत के मशरकी यानी कि ईस्टर्न देहात यानी कि गांव का रईस आजम बहुत बड़ी जागीर में बड़े ठाट बाट से रहता है। इलाके के लोग इस पर जान छिड़कते हैं क्योंकि वो आए दिन उन पर इनाम और इकराम की बारिश करता है। बादशाह को ये बात पसंद ना आई कि इसकी सल्तनत में, इसकी हुकूमत में इसके अलावा किसी और की भी ऐसी शान और शौकत हो। उसने हुक्म दिया इस रईस को इसके दरबार में हाजिर किया जाए। ये देखिए जी, ये हैं हमारे जालिम बादशाह जिनको गुस्सा आ जाता था, और ये हैं हमारे वो रईस आजम जिनको दरबार में हाजिर किया गया। रईस आजम को गिरफ्तार कर लिया। वो बहुत नेक दिल इंसान था। देहात के, उसके गांव के लोग उसकी गिरफ्तारी पर सख्त परेशान हुए क्योंकि वो उनका सच्चा हमदर्द, उनकी मदद करने वाला और उनसे बहुत मोहब्बत और ख्याल करता था। जब उसको दरबार में पेश किया गया तो बादशाह ने उस पर कह की निगाह डाली, बड़े गुस्से से उसकी तरफ देखा और ऐसे माथे पे बल डालकर त्यूड़ी चढ़ाकर कहा कि हमने सुना है कि तुम सल्तनत के अंदर अपनी एक सल्तनत बनाए बैठे हो, बहुत बड़ी जागीर में ठाट बाट से रहते हो और बादशाहों की तरह लोगों को इनाम इकराम देते हो। रईस ने बड़े अदब से कहा, बादशाह सलामत, मैं तो आपका फरमादार राया में शामिल हूं। ये मेरे पास जागीर पिछले 100 साल से आ रही है, तो अपनी जमीनों का पूरा टैक्स अदा करता हूँ, लगान अदा करता हूँ। मैंने कभी आपके हुक्म से सरताबी नहीं की। और अब उन्हीं की जायज आमदनी से, जो कि मेरे पैसे बनते हैं मेरे जमीनों से, मैं अपने लोगों के साथ कुछ हुस्न सलूक, कुछ अच्छा सलूक कर लेता हूँ। यानी कि अपनी जो दौलत बनती है, पैसे बनते हैं, अल्लाह की रहमत होती है, मैं उसको उनसे बांट लेता हूँ। बादशाह को और गुस्सा आ गया। उसने कहा, ज्यादा बातें ना सुनाओ, तुम्हारी सजा तो ये थी कि इसी वक्त तुम्हारी गर्दन उड़ा दी जाए, लेकिन हम तुम्हें एक राय देते हैं, तुमसे 3 सवाल पूछेंगे। अगर तुमने 3 दिन के अंदर इनका सही जवाब ना दिया तो तुम्हें इनका सही जवाब दिया तो माफ कर दिया जाएगा, वरना तुम्हारी सजा वही है कि तुम्हारी गर्दन उड़ा दी जाएगी। रईस डर गया, घबरा गया। उसने पूछा, हुजूर वो सवाल क्या है? बादशाह ने कहा, पहला सवाल ये है कि वो क्या चीज है जो सुबह के वक्त 4 टांगों पर चलती है, दोपहर को 2 टांगों पर, एक्सक्यूज मी, गॉड ब्लेस मी, और शाम को 3 पर। दूसरा सवाल ये है कि वो सवारी कौन सी है जिस पर सवार होकर सिर्फ एक दिन रात में पूरी दुनिया का चक्कर लगाया जा सकता है। और रईस आजम और दरबारी सब हैरान हो रहे थे। और तीसरा सवाल है कि बताओ हम इस वक्त क्या सोच रहे हैं। रईस आजम जाहिर है सुनकर बहुत परेशान हुआ। उसने बादशाह सलामत से हाथ जोड़कर कहा, ये तो बड़े मुश्किल सवाल हैं, 3 दिन में इनका जवाब देना तो मुमकिन नजर नहीं आता। उन्होंने बादशाह सलामत का, क्या याद करोगे, हम तुम्हें 3 हफ्ते देते हैं और उस 3 हफ्ते के बाद हाजिर हो जाना। अगर तुम्हारे जवाब दुरुस्त ना हुए तो फिर समझो तुम अपनी जान से गए। वो रईस निकला दरबार में से, महल में से। ये देखिए बेचारा परेशान है, सोच रहा है कि मैं क्या करूं। अब उसके पास तो इन बातों के जवाब नहीं थे। इस मुल्क में सिर्फ 2 बड़े समझदार आलिम थे, फाजिल आदमियों का ख्याल आया, जिनकी समझ बूझ का दूर दूर तक चर्चा था। उसने कहा कि इन सवालों के जवाब मालूम करने के लिए उनसे मिला जाए, मगर मुश्किल ये थी कि दोनों डिफरेंट मुखालिफ सिमत में रहते थे और बहुत दूर रहते थे। उसने कहा अगर मैं तेज रफ्तार घोड़सवार को दौड़ाऊं तो 3 दिन में अपना सफर तय करूंगा। खैर मरता क्या ना करता। उसने अपने वक्त जाया किए बगैर एक आलिम की डायरेक्शन में उसकी सिमत चल पड़ा और वो था शुमाल में, यानी कि नॉर्थ में। 3 दिन के सफर के बाद जब वो वहां पहुंचा तो उसने आलम के दरवाजे पर लोगों का हजूम पाया। मालूम किया तो पता चला आज तो वक्त मुश्किल है, अलबत्ता कल उसकी बारी आ सकती है। एक मिनट, एक लम्हा उसके लिए बहुत कीमती था, मगर उसको इंतजार करना पड़ा। जब आलम से मुलाकात हुई तो उसने फौरन अपने सवाल पेश किए और अपनी नाकामी बताई। लेकिन जो आलम था वो भी बड़ा सच लिखा, उसने उसका वक्त जाया नहीं किया। वो काफी देर सोचता रहा, मगर आखिर अपनी नाकामी का एतराफ करते हुए, कहते हुए अपनी नाइल्मी का कि ये तो इन सवालों के बारे में मेरी समझ काम नहीं कर रही। रईस आजम फिर मायूस होकर 3 दिन का सफर करके वापस आया, वहीं पहुंच गया जहां से चला था। इस तरह हफ्ता तो उसका गुजर गया। अब उसने साउथ यानी जनूब की तरफ सफर शुरू किया। इस तरह वो 3 दिन के सफर के बाद उस दूसरे आलिम के पास पहुंचा। वहां भी एक दिन उसे इंतजार करना पड़ा, क्योंकि बहुत से लोग थे जो उसका इंतजार, उससे मिलना चाह रहे थे। अब लेकिन दूसरे आलिम ने, आपका क्या ख्याल है, क्या कहा होगा? जी, उसने भी कहा इसका तो जवाब मेरे पास मौजूद नहीं है, मैं तुमसे माजरत करता हूं। अब रईस ने सोचा वापस आके 3 दिन में कि मेरे पास तो जिंदगी का 1 ही हफ्ता रह गया है, क्यों ना मैं इन सवालों का जवाब भूल जाऊं और ऐसी कोशिश छोड़कर अपने देहात, अपने गांव को लौट जाऊं और ये आखिरी चंद दिन अपने इलाके के लोगों में हंसी खुशी बसर करूं जो उससे मोहब्बत करते थे। अब देखिए ना कि कितना अच्छा ये एक इंसान है। उसने कहा अब ये तो अब अपनी जान बचाने के लिए मैंने पूरी कोशिश कर ली है और जवाब ना मेरे जहन में आ रहे, ना किसी को पता है, तो बेहतर यही है कि जो मेरे पास 1 हफ्ता रह गया है वो उसने भागने की, छुपने की कोशिश नहीं की, उसने कोई झूठे तरीके नहीं इस्तेमाल किए, ना ही वो किसी पे गुस्सा और नाराजगी निकाली। बहुत अच्छा इंसान था और इसीलिए तो इतना मशहूर था। वो अपने गांव में पहुंचा। जब वो अपने गांव में दाखिल हुआ तो एक किसान जो उसका हम उम्र और तकरीबन हम शक्ल था, ये देखिए वो किसान जो हल चला रहा है, और ये हैं हमारे रईस आजम घोड़े पे वापस आ रहे। इनकी उम्र भी एक ही थी और जनाब इनकी शक्लें भी एक जैसी थी। काफी मिलती जुलती थी। कई बार बच्चों की शक्लें मिलती हैं ना एक दूसरे से। वो रईस आजम को देख के बहुत खुश हुआ और हल रोक कर उनकी तरफ भागा, और वो बड़ा परेशान था इस रईस की गिरफ्तारी की वजह से। वो पहुंच के कहता है, मेरे मोहतरम, हम सब आपकी तरफ से बहुत परेशान हैं, सुनाइए क्या हुआ। रईस आजम ने अपनी पूरी कहानी सुनाई और कहा कि अब इनका किसी ने मेरे खिलाफ बादशाह सलामत के कान भर दिए हैं और उनका दिल साफ नहीं होगा। अरे, किसान ने कहा, तो परेशानी किस चीज की है? रईस आजम ने, जब किसान ने पूछा कि आप कैसे हैं, उन्होंने अपनी रुईदाद सुनाई, लेकिन बादशाह के सवालों का बात नहीं बताई। लेकिन वो जो किसान था उसने कहा कि आप जो हैं, आप परेशान लग रहे हैं, मुझे बताइए आपको परेशानी क्या है। बस, तो रईस आजम की आंखें भीग गईं और उसे अपनी परेशानी बतानी चाहिए। सारा किस्सा सुनकर किसान ने कहा, आप क्यों फिक्र करते हैं जनाबे वाला, इस मसले का कुछ मुश्किल नहीं है। आप जानते हैं मैं आपका हमशक्ल हूं, मुझे अपना लिबास और घोड़ा दीजिए, इसके बाद मैं जानू मेरा काम। अगर जब सवालात के जवाब ना दे सका तो आपकी जगह मैं अपनी गर्दन कटवा सकता हूँ। रईस को किसान की ये जान निसारी पर खुशी तो हुई, मगर उसे ये अच्छा नहीं लगा कि उसकी जगह कोई और मौत के मुंह में चला जाए। उसने कहा, मेरे प्यारे दोस्त, तुम्हारे खलूस का शुक्रिया, लेकिन मैं ये नहीं कर सकता। किसान कहका लगा कि जनाब आप परेशान ना हो, अल्लाह ने चाहा तो मैं आपके सारे शाही सवालों का जवाब देकर जिंदा वापस आऊंगा। रईस किसी तरह राजी नहीं था, लेकिन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता किसान ने अपनी कामयाबी का यकीन दिलाकर रईस को आमादा कर लिया। जी, तीसरे हफ्ते के आखिरी दिन किसान रईस आजम बनकर बादशाह के दरबार में हाजिर हो गया। बादशाह उसका खुश चेहरा देख के बड़ा हैरान हुआ। बादशाह ने पूछा, क्या तुम सवालों के जवाब देने को तैयार हो? बिल्कुल बादशाह सलामत, किसान ने अदब से सर झुका दिया। ये देखिए जी, किसान बिल्कुल वही लग रहा है, ये देखिए बच्चों, ठीक है ना। और ये हमारे बादशाह सलामत पांव फैला के अक्कड़ से खूब गरूर से बैठे हुए हैं। अच्छा, तो फिर ये बताओ वो क्या चीज है जो सुबह को, आपको सवाल याद है, 4 टांगों पर चलती है, दोपहर को 2 टांगों पर और शाम को 3 पर? किसान ने बड़े एतमाद से कहा, हजूर, वो इंसान है। उसकी जिंदगी की सुबह जब वो छोटा होता है, पैदा होता है और उसका बचपन होता है, जब वो एक बच्चा होता है आप लोगों की तरह, तो पहले वो घुटनों के बल चलता है, क्रॉल करता है। ये देखिए, आपको तस्वीर देख के अंदाजा हो जाएगा कि मैं क्या बता रही हूं। ये है जी सुबह, जो सुबह ओके। अब जब वो घुटनों के बल चारों हाथों पैरों पर चलता है, जवानी उसकी जिंदगी की दोपहर है। यानी कि जैसे मैंने आपको तस्वीर दिखाई, तो जिंदगी की जो जवानी का टाइम है, जब आप टीनेजर्स और बड़े होते हैं, तो वो आपकी जवानी होती है, आपकी यूथ होती है, तो वो उसको दोपहर कहते हैं, दरमियान का हिस्सा जिंदगी का। तो वो सीधा खड़ा होकर 2 टांगों पर चलता है, जैसे मैंने आपको तस्वीर पे दिखाया। समझ गए ना? बड़े स्मार्ट हैं आप लोग, समझदार। और बुढ़ापा यानी कि जो बूढ़ी उम्र होती है, वो जिंदगी का आखिरी हिस्सा होता है। और जैसे दिन का आखिरी हिस्सा शाम होती है, तो वो शाम है, और वो लाठी का या स्टिक का सहारा लेकर जो उसकी तीसरी टांग बन जाती है, चलना शुरू कर जाता है। ये देखिए, बूढ़ा, जवान, और दिन का भी यही, जैसे दिन के हिस्सा है सुबह, बचपन, ठीक है, ये दोपहर यानी कि जवानी, और ये बुढ़ापा यानी कि शाम, दिन, ठीक है। बादशाह ये जवाब सुनकर मुस्कुराया। वैसे इतने जालिम बादशाह ने सवाल तो बड़े इंटरेस्टिंग पूछे थे, है ना? आप पूछ सके थे? या आपके अम्मी अबू, आपने किसी से पूछा जल्दी जल्दी? मुझे कोई मैसेज तो नहीं आया आप में से किसी का। जी, थैंक यू फॉर वेटिंग। अच्छा, उसके बाद बादशाह ये जवाब सुनकर मुस्कुराया और उसका गुस्सा ठंडा होने लगा। उसने कहा, बहुत खूब। अच्छा, तो अब ये बताओ वो कौन सी सवारी है जिस पर सवार होकर एक दिन रात में पूरी दुनिया का चक्कर लगाया जा सकता है? ये बादशाह साहब सोच रहे हैं और ये है जवाब। मैंने कहा इस बार आपको पहले तस्वीर दिखा के जवाब बता देती हूँ। तो गैस कर लिया आपने? लिखिए फौरन, जिस पर सवार होकर किसान ने उसी खुद एतमादी के साथ कहा, हजूर वाला, अगर आप सूरज पर सवार हो जाएं तो अगले रोज सारी दुनिया का चक्कर लगाकर एन इसी वक्त यहां वापस पहुंच जाएंगे। कैसा लगा आपको जवाब? ठीक है ना, लाजवाब कर दिया उसने। चले जी। बादशाह इस जवाब से बहुत खुश हुआ। हाँ, उसने कहा, रईस आजम, तुम तो वाकई बहुत ज़हीन आदमी हो। तुम्हारे दोनों जवाब बहुत उम्दा हैं, मगर तीसरे सवाल का जवाब देना इतना आसान नहीं होगा। बताओ इस वक्त हम क्या सोच रहे हैं? किसान के चेहरे पर मुस्कुराहट फैल गई। किसान के चेहरे, उसने कहा, बादशाह सलामत, ये सवाल तो सबसे आसान है। आप सोच रहे हैं कि मैं उस देहात का रईस आज़म हूं, मगर हकीकत यह है कि मैं उनका एक अदना खादिम हूं। ये कहकर उसने रईस आज़म की अबा उतारी। ये देखे बादशाह अब तो मुस्कुरा के उसकी तरफ देख रहा है और वो अबा उतार रहा है। ठीक है ना जी? ये देखा ना आपने कैसे वो अबा उतार रहा है? जी जी जी। और उसके नीचे वो अपना सादा देहाती लिबास पहने हुए था। बादशाह ये देखकर हंस पड़ा। उसका गुस्सा बिल्कुल जाता रहा। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, सब ने सांस लिया है। मियाँ दहकान, दहकान किसको कहते हैं? किसान को कहते हैं। तुम बहुत ज़हीन और दिलचस्प आदमी हो। हमने फैसला कर लिया है कि असल रईस को बरतरफ करके उसकी जगह तुम्हें मशरकी गांव में देहात का रईस आजम बना देते हैं। इस पर किसान ने कोई लालच नहीं किया। उसी तरह बाअदब होकर झुककर बादशाह को सलाम किया और कहा, बादशाह सलामत, जान की अमान पाऊं तो अर्ज करूं, आपकी कदरदानी, आपकी तारीफ का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। लेकिन हमने अपने रईस आज़म का नमक खाया हुआ है। उन्होंने हमारी हर मुश्किल वक्त में मदद की है, अपनी खुशियों में हमें शामिल किया है, अपने रिस्क में हमें शामिल किया है, और उनका बर्ताव, उनका सलूक हमारे साथ इतना अच्छा रहा है कि हमारा दिल किसी तरह उनकी बरतरफी को कबूल नहीं कर सकता। ये भी कितना दयादना आदमी है। तो जब आप अच्छा करते हैं दयानतदारी के साथ, खलूस के साथ, तो आपके साथ भी वैसा ही होता है। बादशाह ने कहा, तुम्हारी इस बात से हमारी निगाह में तुम्हारी कदर और बढ़ गई है, तुम्हारी इज्जत और बढ़ गई। जाओ अपने रईस आज़म को ये खुशखबरी सुना दो कि हमने उसे माफ कर दिया है, और हाँ, तुम्हारे लिए हम वजीफा मुकर्रर करते हैं जो हर माह तुम्हें मिलेगा। लो जी, कैसी लगी आपको कहानी? ये जी वो शुक्रगुजार हो रहा है और उसको वजीफा भी मिल गया। कितनी अच्छी बात है। कितना अच्छा करोगे तो अच्छा भरोगे, जैसा करोगे वैसा भरोगे। जी, तो कैसा लगा आपको किरदार रईस आज़म का और किसान का? उनमें क्या सिमिलैरिटीज थी? क्या उनमें चीजें एक जैसी थीं और क्या डिफरेंट थीं? जी। और बादशाह, कैसा लगा आपको? जी, सोचिएगा और मुझे लिख के बताइएगा। थी ना मजे की कहानी? इसको लिखा था खुर्शीद रिजवी ने और आमना महमूद ने इसकी ड्राइंग्स की थी। जी जनाब। तो अब, are you ready for the next story or do you want a break? Do you? Okay, let's see. Well, I'm going to take a few sips of tea and then begin the next story. Settle down, everybody. Yes, I love to look at your sparkly eyes and your smiling, eager faces. Stay hungry to learn, always, yes. Now, this story that I have selected, it's an amazing story. I really loved it. You must have read the name, or no, I did post it, The Birthday Boy. And it has been written by, let's double check so I don't give a wrong name. The name is Michel Margorian. The Birthday Boy by Michel Margorian. Okay, so now this iski setting jo hai, the setting is of World War II. Do you remember when did we have World War II? Which set did it start? Yes, 1939. Billy is evacuated from London and goes to live with Tom Oakley, an elderly, unsociable man, and his dog, Sammy. The dog's name is Sammy. Gradually, Tom and Billy begin to make friends. Now, this story is based on the fact that Tom Oakley, like I told you, he's not a very social person. He doesn't like meeting too many people. He's happy and contented with his life, and he's an old elderly person. He's very fond of his dog, Sammy, right? But we find out that he's a kind man because he didn't know Willie at all, but he lets him stay with him and gives him a loving, comfortable, affectionate home, so unlike his personality, and goes out of his way to help him. And who says we can't make friends between older people and younger people? You don't have to be your age group to make friends. You can make friends with, you can have a friendship with your younger ones and older ones. Yeah, there are different kinds of friendship. You can have a friendship with your parents. You can have a friendship with your help. Yes, as long as that friendship begins good thoughts, good vibes, inspiration, right? And trust, right? And confidence. So it can happen between any two people. So this story is about a friendship and how it benefited both. Even Tom, let's see, though he just went out of his way to help this little child, right, who was separated from his mother. But in the long run, even he was benefited. He found more friends. So now Willie has come to stay with Tom Oakley in a village in 1939 because Willie was evacuated from London. Okay. Willie leapt out of bed. Sammy was yapping and jumping and down, woo, woo, waiting for him. Now he's made friends with Sammy, right? Whose dog is he? Yes, Mr. Tom Oakley. Morning, said Tom, appearing at the back door. Happy birthday! He expected Willie to ask if there had been any post, but there was no response. Hey, he said happy birthday, so you must have guessed it's Willie's birthday. And Tom knew about it, and he wished him right away the first thing in the morning. And mind that Tom is not educated, right? But he understands the significance and the importance of education in our lives. Yes, That is the only door which is going to take us to success and happiness. Oh, and why was he thinking that Willie would be expecting post? Because his mother was there and obviously would be expecting a birthday card or a wish or a note from his mother. They had decided that every day Willie would practice writing and reading before leaving for school. Tom and Willie, when he had finished his chores, when he had done his errands, he sat down at the table and copied out, "I am William Beach," over and over again. So he's also working diligently, hard-working child. After much effort, finally, Willie was persuaded by Tom Oakley to go for a run and exercise Sammy. Oh, so there's a reason. Actually, he wants him to exercise as well because he's done his work, he's done his errands like a good boy. He's not a bother for Mr. Tom Oakley. He had only just disappeared down the graveyard path and out of sight when the postman arrived at the back gate. "Anything from London's?" asked Tom. Matthew shook his head. "That's the postman." "Afraid not. I got parcels though and cards and this." So parcels, let's see. It was a basket with fresh eggs, a newly baked loaf of bread. Imagine the smell and what an effort. A pat of butter and some rashers of meat inside. "It's a birthday breakfast from the pad fields." What a perfect breakfast, freshly baked. And they don't even know this boy, Willie. But what lovely people they are. Tom took the cards and parcels together with the basket indoors. He took it inside the stuff. It was a shame that there was nothing from the boy's mother, but then it was only Thursday. And perhaps, since war had been declared, the letters were being delayed. Willie returned, flushed and breathless, followed by Sammy. He flung the door open and was about to say something when he caught sight of the table. So Willie had given Sammy, and now he was tired, but he was refreshed, and he came back from the run, and he had to say something to Tom. But then suddenly he noticed the table. See what's on the table. You must have guessed it too. On top of a red and white checkered tablecloth were two of the best plates. Not ordinary one, cups and saucers. You know what saucers and cups and plates are? In the center stood a jam jar. We all love to have jam jar. And there was a jar of flowers. So not jam, but it had flowers in it. Why? Because it was Willie's birthday. But Tom didn't have to do it. He's an elderly man, but he did it just to cheer him up and make it a special breakfast for him. And surrounding Willie's place, where Willie would sit, as you can see, the back end of the chair. So he had a special place. What was there? Two parcels and envelopes. "Happy birthday again," said Tom. "Are they for me?" asked Willie in astonishment. "It's where you usually sit, ain't it? Go on, open them. I'll read out who they are from." Willie picked up a soft brown paper package and with trembling fingers slowly untied the string. Trembling fingers because he's nervous, he's excited. Oh boy, somebody has given him a birthday gift. Inside lay a green woolen baklava, which is a green a sleeveless pullover, sleeveless sweater, and a pair of navy blue shorts. Like to try them on, said Tom. Why, Willie climbed out of his thin grey ones and stepped into the navy pair. The shorts were a little ruse round the waist. They'll soon fill out. Now, poor Willie is still not that healthy, right? So he needs to expand his waist, unlike all of us, right? Okay. You'll soon fill out though, said Tom. He put the pullover on over Willie's shirt. Stand back and let's have a look at you. Like when we try our new clothes, we love to show and look at ourselves in the mirror. The top was also a little long, but not so that it looked foolish. The shorts hung comfortably down to the base of his knees. He beamed, gave a broad smile. Feel good, do they? Yeah, they got pockets too, he said, plunging his hands deep into them. He glanced at the pullover. What's that? Oh, at the balaclava. What's that? It's a balaclava. Balaclava keeps your head and ears warm when the wind's nippy. So balaclava is a furry kind of a cap which has ear muffs. So it keeps your head and ears warm. When it's nippy, biting, chilly, cold. Can I put it on now? If you want. Who gave it to me? He asked. Now, see, both their grammar is not that good. Now, Willie has studying here, right? Probably he was unable to go to school in London. I did. Who gave it to me? So Tom said, I did, but Mrs. Fletcher made it. That means it was his idea, his thought, and he bought the wool and gave it to Mrs. Fletcher. Probably she was very good with knitting. Ta, said Willie gratefully. That means thank you. And he touched the soft wool of the pullover. And you're going to open the rest? The next parcel contained some underwear from Mary Thorne, good ones. Okay, from some neighbor who Willie had never even met. And Amelia, her sister, May Thorns, had given him an illustrated copy of The Wind in the Willows, a book with lots of drawings and pictures. Inside she had written, to William on his 9th birthday, how young Willie is, for Mr. Oakley to read to you until you can read it yourself. Oh, what a lovely note. Willie held it tight to his chest. It reminds me of my school days. My favorite gift would be what? Yes, storybooks. Oh, Willie held it tightly to his chest. Is it for me to keep? Tom nodded. He could not believe it, that this was his own book. He could keep it. His own book, his very own book. The pages were crisp and white and were filled with most marvelous, lovely pictures of animals. Okay, wearing clothes. He placed the book carefully to one side and continued to open the other parcels. There was a white china egg cup with a golf rim from Connie and Walter Bird, a boy's comic annual with lots of pictures and games in it from Doctor and Nancy. So these are the names of the neighbors who have extended their hand of friendship and love and affection towards the little boy. And so they're supporting Tom Oakley, and a game of snap from the vicar and his wife. There's so many people, wow, in it, though they haven't met Willie as yet because he's been here a few days. In addition to the parcels was 7 birthday cards. Wow, lovely. He stood quite still for a moment. He was frozen with excitement and surprise. It felt odd to be lonely. Oh, sorry, I think I turned 2 pages together. Did I? Yes, I did. Willie was completely overcome with emotions of joy and gratitude and thank you. He sat down and stared at the gifts, quite speechless, could not utter a word. Tom, meanwhile, took a large parcel out of the cupboard and placed it in front of him. Another parcel from Tom. That's me present from me to you. But you give me this, he said, indicating his pullover and these shorts. Oh, this is something different, like something he needed. So he got him that as a birthday gift. But this was a special from him to him. Willie unwrapped the parcel and gave us, there before his eyes lay one large and one small sketch pad, drawing pad, pages and pages of untouched paper. These were 2 paint brushes, and there were pots of paint. One brush was a medium size, the other was thin and delicate, and the paints were red, yellow, blue. And Tom right away said, if you mix them, the colors, the paints, you can also get orange, green and brown. You all know that. Yeah, you're all smart with your drawing art classes. And wrapped up in a tissue paper was a pencil, a rubber and a sharpener. How exciting. Something was carved at the end of the pencil. What effort Tom Oakley had made. It looked familiar. He traced it slowly with his finger. William Beach, it had its name engraved on it. Oh, wow, and look at these collections. And look how overwhelmed with emotions Willie is. Oh, he looked lovingly at the paints and brushes and swallowed the pain that had risen. It gave him so much of joy and sadness at the same time, because it was sheer surprise and it was something he had been wanting for a long time. God knows how Mr. Tom discovered that. So there was a lump in his throat, and because he was choking with tears in his eyes. Oh, I take it you like them, murmured Tom. I chose them myself, like Willie is speechless. Thanks, Mr. Tom, said Willie huskily. I'll look after them real proper. Oh, that's the best he could come. How sweet. After a birthday egg and bacon fry-up, there was a special breakfast. Willie ran off to school. Tom met him outside at lunchtime, another kid, as there were no classes for him in the afternoon. They visited the people who had given him presents so that he could thank them personally. It would save the agony of trying to write letters, and Tom thought it would be a good opportunity for Willie to meet them in person and get to know them and extend his social association, get to know people, feel at home and thank them, right? As for Tom, everyone was very surprised to see him, for he rarely visited anyone. So what change do we see in Mr. Tom? That he accompanied, because obviously Willie didn't know where they lived. So they walked down in person, and everybody was, of course, happy to see Willie, to welcome him and accept his thank you. But Mr. Tom, it was thrilling for them to see him because he had never visited them. They strolled back home down the tunnel lane and called in at the little cottage and the vicarage on the way. Willie had looked around for the twins and George, but they were never to be seen. These are the other kids in his school. He knew them a little now. Even at the littles, there was no sight of Zach. So these are the friends, named twins and George and Zach. And this guy who, okay. Then who do we have? Okay, he thought perhaps they have gone blackberrying. That means picking blackberries, thought, and for a fleeting moment, he wished that he was with them. So he was craving for fun and company, like any 9-year-old would. How about staying outside this afternoon, suggested Tom subtly. Now, suddenly, Tom is suggesting to go out and enjoy himself in the afternoon. It's a fine day. His words were immediately contradicted by the appearance of a dark shadow across this, like the weather was saying, no, it's not a sunny, fine day. Okay, drat them blimmin' clouds. What a cute language, he muttered. Before they had reached the back gate, a few drops of rain, pitter-patter, had already dropped warningly on their heads. You feel the big drops of rain on your head? Yes, isn't it a delicious feeling? I love it. I'll have to draw inside now. He's excited. All he can think about is drawing, said Willie to himself. Tom grunted. He didn't like the idea of him staying inside the cottage, and then suddenly hit on the idea. I wonder what's going on in Tom's mind. How about the church, he exclaimed. Of course you could draw in there. It'll be perfect, quiet, nobody will disturb you. Yeah, agreed Willie. Yeah, I could. He didn't think much about it. He wrapped his mackintosh, his plastic covering, raincoat kind, carefully round the small sketch pad and fled down the pathway to the church, arriving at the nick of the time. For as he closed the heavy arched door, a slow drizzle of rain, pitter-patter raindrops, swept across the village and surrounding fields. So it started raining. Yeah, he was just in time. Yeah. Okay, now where was I? Yeah, he stood quite still for a moment inside the beautiful, magnificent, silent, sacred, solemn church. It felt odd to be alone. He had never been alone in the church. He stared up at the windows and the colourful paintings on them, and then caught sight of the pulpit. Oh, slinging his mackintosh over the back of a pew are the seats, a row of seats in a church. He sat down and rested his feet on the one in front. He had been running around and visiting people, and before he had given a fast, brisk walk to Sammy, he placed the sketch pad on his knees, flicked open the first page. Imagine the pleasure of opening your first sketch book. He began to draw. He didn't hear the rain suddenly stop. He was only conscious of the pulpit and his sketch pad. The rest of the church had ceased, had stopped to exist for him. He forgot where he was, so he was drawing the pulpit probably. Neither did he hear Zack repeatedly calling him, "Hey, Willie, Willie!" But he was so lost and engrossed in his drawing and sketching of his foot, so he did not hear Zack's footsteps running up the tiny pathway to the back door. The door opened slowly and Zack peeped in. He was just about to speak when he became aware that Willie was absorbed in his task. He was so engrossed. He took a few paces forward and leaned over Willie's small, thin shoulders to see what he was doing. His shadow fell across the pad. Willie jumped up and turned around hurriedly, placing his arm over the picture. He's trying to hide it, but it was too late. Zack had already seen it. "I say," he gasped, full of admiration, "that's magnificent!" Willie shyly flapped the cover of the pad over the drawing. "You must show the..." But he checked himself. "Didn't you hear me call you? I practically tore my throat out yelling for you." Willie, you shook his head. "Ah," said Zack thoughtfully, feeling a little stumped for words. Mr. Oakley says that he'd like to converse with you. Talk about the time of the day, that sort of thing. He's waiting for you now." "Oh. So he's hiding something. He's telling him Mr. Tom Oakley is waiting for him, but he's not giving the reason. You know, he says it's that time of the day, he wants you back home." "Is he?" said Willie in surprise, and he picked up his mackintosh because this was unusual. "Is it still raining?" "It finished an age ago," groaned Zack. "Hurry up, or it might start again." Or, now he's hiding something. He keeps stopping himself. So there's something. Cooking. They walked down the path towards the front door. He heard Sammy give an excited bark from the front room. "Woof, woof!" and when it immediately muffled somebody stopping him from odd thought Willie, but he shut it off and hung his Macintosh on his peg on the hook. Good child. Oh, do hurry, said Zack, who was standing waiting at the door. Willie looked at him. What you waiting for? He asked. You go in first. And with that, Zack pushed open the door, and immediately, guess what? The whole room erupted into happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear William. Happy birthday to you. So many warm voices. The twins, George, their mothers, Lucy and her mother, and Tom were all standing in the front room singing, while Sammy sat in the middle and ooh and howled. A large banner with happy birthday was hung above and across the range. On the table stood 2 jellies, 1 red and 1 green. There was a plate of chocolate wafers, a plate of potted meat, and some paste sandwiches, and a plate of fairy cakes. In the center of the table was an iced cake with 9 lighted candles on it. Zack was the first to break the ensuing silence. Was it a surprise? He burst out. Was it a real surprise? Did you guess? It was obvious from Willie's astounded expression that he had no idea at all. So this is what a birthday was like. He had heard a lot at school. He had heard people at school talking about them. He looked at Tom for help. You got to blow. He didn't know what to do, what to say. And Tom said, you got to blow the candles out, boy. And if you manage to blow them all out at once, you can make a wish, said Carrie. Willie leaned over, breathe. Don't you get blown away. Let's finish the story. 6 candles went out the first time, the remaining 3 the second time. Everyone applauded, like we all do. You can still have a wish, said Zack, when you cut the cake, only you mustn't talk till after you made it. And it must remain a secret, else it won't come true. We'll be here till doomsday if you go blithering on, said Tom. Willie held the knife above the cake, screwed up his face till he had thought of a wish, and then plunged the knife. And that's the birthday banner, that's the birthday guests, and that's Willie in the middle, yeah, with a sleeveless pullover. They had just sat down when Zack said, okay, let out. I nearly forgot you haven't seen Will's picture. Willie was still holding his sketch pad in tightly under his arm, his face turned pink with embarrassment. You drawn a picture, said Tom. Can we see it? Can we see it? Everybody was shouting, Carrie, George, twins. Please, added Trini. He lifted the cup up slyly. George came and stood by his side and... I told you, didn't I, said Zack. Tom leaned over their heads and peered down. It was a copy of the carved eagle on the pulpit. Its strong, stubborn wings were swept back in a magnificent curve. Around it, Willie had added reins so that it appeared to be flying against great wind. That's a fine hand you have there, William, said Tom quietly. A fine hand. Willie blushed crimson red. They all settled down to eating, while Willie, amidst all the chatter and laughter, found himself an object of praise. Everybody was admiring and praising his drawing. After some time, there was some more presents. A jigsaw from the twins, colored pencils from Zack, sweets from George, and some small cakes from Lucy. She baked them herself, her mother said. Thank you, said he awkwardly. And she gave him one of her luminous, lighted up, loving smiles. After playing several party games, everyone You see, the magic of birthday never stops. Blowing of candles, cutting of cake, the singing, the gifts, the opening of the gifts, playing of games. After playing several party games, everyone finally returned home. Tom and Willie stood outside and watched them leaving. They turned back into the sitting room and closed the door. Mr. Tom, Mr. Tom, Mr. Tom, said Willie, touching his sleeve. It's the best, but he could not fit. Ow! The excitement and food suddenly came up, welled up inside him, and he gave a short lapse and vomited all over the carpet. Why did you think he vomited? Because he had never had a birthday like this. Never. And then it was such a surprise. He was overwhelmed with emotions of joy, excitement, surprise. Oh, thrill. Oh, gratitude. Thank you. Yes. And then he lived happily with Mr. Tom Oakley. Right. So how did you like the story about friendship? The birthday boy. Wasn't it a special story? I was actually with Willie and Tom and the kids, and I actually felt I was in the church, and I felt the rain, and I felt the excitement of opening the gifts. They were described so beautifully. It reminded me of my childhood birthdays, and I would be thrilled to wonders, couldn't sleep till late at night with thrill, and I would decorate them on my table or chair, wherever, or carpet or rug. Oh, I'm sure you all do that. What a blissful day for him. And God bless Mr. Tom Oakley. Do write to me about friendship. What do you understand? And what does one need to do? Right? And what is friendship? Lovely to see you as always. Look forward to seeing you next Sunday, same time, right? On Facebook at Stories with Uzma. You can listen to me anytime on Facebook. If you can't listen to me live, and if you want to spread the word around, don't forget to click like. I have to, yes. And the other story that you can listen to live or otherwise also on Facebook, but in Scary Yummy group, right? All right. So, ciao. Khuda Hafiz. Lovely to see you all. Bye-bye.